pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Motion and a second, discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And the minutes of the February 4th meeting. Motion to approve them.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion or questions, corrections? Seeing none, I have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And the claims, the bills in between $64,817.92. Do I have a motion to approve them?
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And the current claims in the amount of $179,785.22. Do I have a motion to approve them?
So moved.
Motion and a second. Discussion or questions on the current claims? Being done, I have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And just before I start communication from the public, I wanted to tell everybody that we've got executive session scheduled at 8:15. We didn't want to have an attorney or two sitting here waiting, so if we're not done with the regular business, unless we're very close to done, we're going to go to executive session, then come back to finish the meeting. So just a heads up, that's what I plan to do. Communication from the public. I think, Wally, you had something?
Yes, I do. About 15 years ago, Hot Springs started to put some anthracite. And we worked on that one, they collapsed, so I started pushing that one again. I talked to Mayor, I talked to Stacy, and we have some kind of a memory drawer, how they're gonna look. I tried to work with Kevin Lorenz, who I think is the best guy who can do something like that, and we definitely need the anthracite for the Hot Springs. So I talked to DOT, we cannot put something like historical Hot Springs, it's gotta be just Hot Springs or welcome to Hot Springs. So I wanna let you know, we're working on it, so don't be surprised on it. And we wanna work on the first one from the east of the town, about 100, 200 feet in front of the speeding sign. So if we decide there's gonna be good things, the speeding sign can be moved. Because mayor can do that, and the DOT, it's okay to do that over there. The cardboard box sign, which one is now, I'd like to be removed. So I'm working on it. We have a kind of a, how we can look, how that looks nice, and have everything what in the town, sandstones, and put some lights on it, everything. So soon we're gonna get some plans, and Calvin come with some kind of a price. I get back to you and tell you what the cost. And bid board put some money for improvement, so we're gonna try to use those money for the sign. So it'll be not just on a city. So maybe we can do the same thing like they do the Custer, put the one side a year for the entrance. So there might be project for a few years.
I think that 2020 is working with that, the grant that works.
Well, we like to see the comments, but if somebody come with some kind of idea, we like to see their check. Right, because
I think-
the town is very famous to give, oh, I don't like that one, I don't like that one.
Yeah.
If you have a comments, have a solution, and come talk to.
Yeah, I think the 2020 group would have a lot of good ideas to work with you on, and that grant would really work good. So
We'll
you
see.
need to get together,
Well, sure,
okay?
no problem.
Yep, if we voted, we'll let Tracy
Okay.
vote. Thanks,
All
Wally.
right, thank you.
Do I have other communication from the public? Yeah.
I just got my water bill and I noticed I'm still paying off a debt. Which debt am I paying off now? I thought that one was paid.
It takes a while for it to come off, don't it?
It'll be off the next bill, yes, 20 days after publication before it's actually legal, and we made the final payment in February, so the bill you paid for this month still included the paying off of the debt service of the $188,000 that was approved a couple meetings ago.
bless you.
Sure does.
If it doesn't come off the next one, be sure to come down to the point.
I want something else right now.
Joe, did you have something to do?
I did, if I can. Because I'm Joe Lux, for those of you who may not know who I am, but, and you know that I've got a group of partners that we're looking at trying to get the plunge and keep it in the right hands. Since these articles have come out in the paper, I received a fair number of calls from people, and one of the questions that keeps coming up is, well, what are your thoughts on what you're looking at doing? So, please, the council, I can take just a few minutes and tell you where we're at and what it is that we're looking at. And one of the things that is our challenge is that at the end of the day, we don't have the luxury of falling back on property taxes or sales taxes if our projections are wrong. We're stuck with our projections, and if we're off, it comes out of our pockets, it's our livelihoods, our financial ruin. So what we're spending time, and I'd like people to understand, it takes time to put together a project like this. So we've got valuation experts looking at it that we've retained to decide what is a good price for the plunge, what is it worth both from a business standpoint, what is it worth from an asset standpoint. And it just takes time for that kind of detailing, because it's our money on the line, it's not the taxpayers of Hot Springs. So, and one thing I might just say, I don't want anyone to misunderstand me here. I know everyone here has the best thoughts for Hot Springs in mind. That's really not what I'm addressing here, or what my partners are addressing. But that is a big problem for us. We don't have the luxury of being able to fall back on taxes. The town is going to buy money through a bank or bonds or some other source, and who knows what those terms are going to be, but at the end of the day, bonding companies want the taxing authority of the town. They want assurance. They don't want to own a swimming pool any more than my bank wants to own a swimming pool. So, you know, but the town is going to have its tax revenue as a source of collateral, and I don't have it. So what are we looking at doing? The plunge people who own it today, they've done a wonderful job. When they came in originally, that place was collapsed. It was a cesspool. I don't know how many of you were here at that time, but the roof had collapsed. You look into the walls had collapsed. It looked like that was so contaminated, nothing could ever be done. And they bought it and they put a bunch of money into it. That's the stage the plunge is now. You've got the TSP report that says somewhere between $450,000 and $600,000. Those are big dollars. And I don't blame the current owners for not wanting to put that money in and start that cycle again. But we need to know that we can actually make all of that cash flow. One thing that's different today than 30 years ago is this. A concrete bunker worked 30 years ago. A concrete bunker today does not get the tourists to stop by. It's an unattractive building. One of the things we're looking at doing, and we've got architects designing these, and then of course, how much is this going to cost? What kind of revenues and where are we going to get those is all part of the equation. But the outside needs to be attractive so that a tourist going by is inspired to stop. The advertising that the plunge currently has when it first came out, I thought was really cool. But let's face it, it's dated today. So we've got marketing people looking at that to see what can we do to enhance our marketing. But more important than that, what kind of marketing is it going to take to get the people to provide the revenue? And it's been pointed out very accurately here, I will say, that the city can get pool insurance much cheaper than I can or any other private people. That makes it easier for the city to make ends meet. I acknowledge that. But that doesn't mean it's not possible. It just means we need to have a good plan for where the numbers are coming from. In the city's projections, there's over a $10,000 a month payment projected for the next 20 years. Well, divide that out by the proposed $7 fee, and this is, simplification. That means you have to have 1,500 new people this month, and next month, and the following month, and every month for 20 years, just to pay the debt service. And it's not been immediately clear to us just yet where that 1,500 new people every month is going to come from. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm saying we don't have the luxury of taking it from taxes if our projections are wrong. We have to have the money now. We have to have the money in order to cash flow it until it gets going. By our projections, we need to have about $150,000 cash reserved in order to tie this over until we can have some income coming in. The purchase agreement that people have talked about talks about an October 1 closing, as between the buyer and the seller, that's whenever they agree. But that's what it says. There will be no significant revenues through the winter. I think the fact that it's closed for years demonstrates that. So we will have to have $150,000 in operating funds just to get us to next spring. Forget any improvements. We need $150,000 in order to tie this through. I haven't heard any discussion from the council, and I have not been here for all of the meetings, so I apologize if this occurred, but I haven't heard any discussion about where those operating funds are going to be coming from when the city takes it over. But again, maybe I've just missed those discussions. But and then there's one of the things we want to do is lower the rates. I'll tell you now, if they were this rates when I was 10, we would never have stopped at the plunge. Families couldn't have afforded it. Families in town can't afford it. I think if traveling public, I don't think that's a big issue because they expect to spend money when they go traveling. But this is my home since '76 by choice, and I'd like to have people here be able to use it like I was fortunate enough to on those vacations that I took when we were going out. If we're looking at, and again, these are just generalities taken off of the projections that the council has presented to the public. If we've got $7 as an admission price, and it's currently $12, that's basically a 50% savings. And I believe just that reduction will generate additional use. I don't see how any other outcome is possible. But if you're cutting the price by half, you need to have twice as many people to use the place in order to get your revenues back to where they were. You have increased revenues. You've got now, if you had 5,000 people paying $2 every month, that's $10,000. But now we're going to cut it in half at $1. So now we've got 5,000 people paying $5,000. I need 5,000 more people every month just to get to 10, and I haven't increased our revenues in order to do anything. It's not apparent to us just yet, but that's what I've got brighter minds than mine or any of my partners to work on it, to figure out what kind of a marketing campaign can we have to get these people here. Well, we just can't, and again, I don't want to step on anybody here, but I can't say to my partners, well, I believe this is going to happen, unless I've got market projections by people who do that for a living. And I know the town hasn't done that because it hasn't, approved those kinds of funding available. And one of the councilmen, I apologize, I don't remember, made the comment he hadn't looked at, the confidential financial information because he can't talk about it anyway. And that's true. You can't. So on one hand, what is the point? But I don't have the luxury of it. But as a taxpayer, it does concern me that if I'm going to be buying the plunge through the city purchase, how do those numbers in fact work? But no one here is able to get that information and disclose it to anyone. And that's an unfortunate thing. So we've got that same information, and I've got the same problem you guys do. I can't tell anybody what I know. I can't tell anybody did 2012 make money or did 2012 lose money. I can't say in 2011 did the plunge make money or did it lose money. How about in 2010? I can't do any of that. And several of you have seen that information, and you can't tell anybody. But my people do have that information, and they are working on figuring those things out. One thing that we're looking at with the plunge is the basic building is sound. We've got our own architects and engineers taking a look at things. We've got our own insurance people to look at things. We're looking at maybe having the plunge open if you've got a 24-hour key that you can swipe and go in. And then, that would be something, a huge advantage for members. They can go in basically 24 hours a day, but that's not just a benefit for Hot Spring. People out in the county, in Custer, this could draw a long way because if you get off work and you're working in Custer, you don't get off work till 6 o'clock, how do you get down here in time to have a meaningful swim or use the facility? Well, you don't. So you've automatically precluded those people except for weekend hours. We're exploring what those could be and what kind of pricing structure will that work out for us. At what point is it likely that we'll have X number of bodies willing to pay X amount of dollars for the ability to get in basically 24 hours a day? The fitness club in town here has the ability to get in 24 hours. But again, those are insurance questions. And there are also architectural questions, because you have to change the doors and you have to let people in. It takes time for us to put those things together. I won't have that information all put together before this goes to a vote, if there's to be a vote. But those are things that we're looking at. I think we've lost with the plunge something that's hugely important, and my partners all agree with this, and that is, what did the plunge look like 150 years ago? I'm pretty sure it didn't look like what we've got now. I think today there's a big market for people, and I think it's been there for a long time, for something a bit more natural, something that's not a concrete bunker, which is what we've got. Now, I think there's a place for both, but what we're looking at and what our people are looking at is what kind of expansion can be done and at what cost to bring back a more natural pool, something that looks like it's coming up out of the ground instead of being under iron doors underneath the sidewalk that nobody gets to see. I have seen it. It's way impressive for those of you who haven't seen it. I think people, one thing from the years of business that I was here that I always heard is, where's the natural springs? Well, you can go out to Cascade Springs. You can go out to Keith Park. But there's really nowhere in town where you can see that. And I think a lot of tourists are disappointed. So that's one of the things we want to try and bring back. We want to change the aesthetic of the front, which I think will help get business. There's a lot of work that needs to be done mechanically to the building. But no one will see that. Not one tourist or local person is going to come to the plunge because it's got an upgraded electrical system. It doesn't bring one more person in. So our focus is, yes, those need to be done, but what is the timetable where they have to be done? And dump some money into making it look aesthetically attractive. Make it look, when you go on the inside, the happiest, most energetic people working there that you've ever seen. People who know about the history of the plunge. People that can be somebody to promote all springs. It takes time to put that group together. There's all kinds of health equipment at the plunge currently, and that's proposed, or at least it's a possibility to buy all of that as far as the purchase of the plunge is concerned. We're in the process of putting together a job posting, if you will, that'll be posted on Craigslist and probably in the local Hot Springs Star classifieds as well. But you know, what kind of a person can we have that can run that place? I will tell you, I don't personally have the skills necessary to run a health club, but I believe we've got the skills within my partners to put together an appropriate package where we can get someone in who can run that. Someone who's got an ownership stake in how it works, where they can be compensated in part by how well it does. It takes time to put those together, and a month or two isn't sufficient. But I think something to keep in mind is the plunge has been for sale for years. The property is for sale for years because nobody's willing to pay the price because it won't cash flow at the price. I don't know that I ever have believed that it's serious that some nonprofit group is going to buy the plunge up, because they've got to abide by the tax laws which say they can't pay more than fair market value for a piece of property. They can't go out and pay a bunch of money. But I don't think those people exist, because it's a ton of money we're talking about here, folks. You talked about 1.9 million. I think that's probably insufficient, but I don't know. But it's going to take a bunch of money. We're contemplating that, yeah, it's going to take somewhere in that same range. But we need the cash flow from people. We need the marketing that's going to get those people so that my partners and I can feel comfortable, and frankly the bank, knowing that so we're looking at having then programs for young people to get in. I'm on the board of directors for Black Hills Workshop, now known Black Hills Works in Mount, and I have been for a long time. It's an organization that provides assistance to people who are developmentally challenged, either mentally or physically, either from birth, traumatic accident, or even still, for some reason, an accident. The long-term brain trauma care is a Black Hills Workshop facility that we have. It's very important to me to be a part of that, because I feel I'm doing good to people who are underserved and have challenges. There's not a lot in Hot Springs for kids to do. And I think the plunge can be part of that solution. When I was in business before, I had a lot of people that I employed, and many of them had social challenges that if they didn't get a job, frankly, they were going to be going to JVC. Some of them still ended up there, but a lot of them had a chance to see that, oh, I can do something meaningful with my life. I can work, I can get some money, and then I can do things. And I'd like to be able to develop that with the plunge as well, so our younger people can have some ownership, and the community can have ownership in the building, in the sense that this is something they support. Because without community support, this isn't gonna work. I can make a bunch of money, theoretically, in the summertime, but I'm gonna be like the current owners. I don't wanna lose money in the wintertime, but I don't have to make money in the wintertime. My partners and I, we don't need to make money in the wintertime. We just need to not lose a bunch of money in the wintertime. I can't sit here and say we're gonna be open the same hours in fall and winter and early spring as what it is in the summer. In fact, I can say pretty much that's not gonna happen. I mean, there's just not the revenue. It's a difficult building. It wasn't built to be open in the wintertime. The TSP report makes it clear that it wasn't intended for that. Well, I'm getting older, folks, and there's a few others in here. I like warm water. I think the paper caught it exactly right. I want a place where I can get in reasonably, easily, at a reasonable price, and get warm. And the plunge can do that, and frankly, I'd like to be able to say when that's going to be, because I think I'll be able to respond, partly a lot quicker than what any kind of a sick is going to be able to do. There's a lot of elderly people in town, and some of them would like just a place where they can walk on a year-round basis. Well, I think there's things that can be worked out with them through use of volunteers or just training. There's a lot of our elderly people, and I'm amongst that category according to ARPA. I've been here quite a long time now already. But I want to have some relationships with those people so that they can feel a part of the plunge and that they're part of the success of the plunge. The boys club, girls club, I think there's opportunities for those people to be involved in what's going on. I would like, with time, to be able to hold community meetings so that I can see what are people envisioning for the children. What is their involvement? What are the older people, senior citizens, the Evans, Brookside? What are they envisioning? What are their desires? It doesn't do me a lot of good to buy the plunge and then hold those meetings, because we may have come up with something that in fact isn't going to work because we've missed the mark. It takes time to have all of that, and we can't have that done before this. If it went to a vote a month from now, I seriously doubt that we would have it by that time either. But we're continuing to work in that direction. But we want to return the plunge back to something what it was 150 years ago, where people can get a sense of the natural, and frankly, the sense of awe that you get when you see this gushing amount of water. For those of you who haven't been out to Keith Park, you need to go out there. It is amazing. Why can't we have that back here? I think we can. But it's going to cost some money, and we need to be able to cash flow. I think we can, but today I can't say that. I don't think the city can say that either. They've got the same thing as we've got, which is this is our best guess. I just want the tax dollars to support it, so I have to take a considerably longer period of time. But as a taxpayer, I'm being asked to buy the plunge through the town based on a hope and a prayer. And as a taxpayer, that concerns me greatly, and that's part of why I put together this group of people. If we're going to screw up, we're going to screw up ourselves rather than have the town screw up. This is where I'm going to retire. This is still home. I work in Rapid, as most of you know, but I'm down here regularly, although I just told Jerry I think I'm part vampire because mostly nobody sees me. But I am down here all the time. Our goal is to have a place that is open, that people can use at the hours that most people like, to be able to have some sort of 24-hour access so that that will enhance its use, and that we can have a building that inspires people to go there and to feel the wonder from natural waters. A wonder you don't get from 55 years. Cool. Which we would still keep, but that's kind of where we're at. We need the kids involved. We need young people of all ages involved. We need the school involved. And one of the things we thought about, though I haven't a clue yet how to actually bring this about, but is if the town owns it, it also saves on property taxes. And from a town standpoint, that's a heck of a good deal, because that's money you don't have to have. If you've got a $7,000 tax bill, you've got $7 per person, well, that's 1,000 people less that you need compared to what I need. And the numbers they work in your favor. But the town, even if it makes payments in lieu of taxes to itself, it wouldn't be obligated to do that. But the county and the school are gonna lose significant tax dollars. So one of the things we wanna do as we proceed is see if there's some relationship that we can have with the school, that rather than risk losing all of the tax revenue, is there a portion of it that they would be willing to put towards swim programs? The same thing we do. And we all know that every governing board needs money all the time, so I don't hold out, frankly, that that's gonna be well received, but that doesn't mean it's not well received. But that's kind of where we're at, and what it is.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
We have more communication from the public. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Joe's idea is good, but also, we've many times looked, since I've been here in Hot Springs 28 years ago, about having a community pool that our kids can go to, because every time you turn around, private owners at plunge, and they'll give you a good deal, and after a year or two, then it's gone, and therefore the kids can't go swimming in the summertime, and that's one of the reasons a lot of us thought this would be a good idea, is because if you look at it as a community pool, Rapid City in the paper had like, they're gonna spend $9 million on 2 pools in Rapid City this year, I think, so they voted to do that. And those are community pools, and not necessarily gonna make tons of money, that's not what they're there for, but they're for the people to use. And that's one aspect I think a lot of times we haven't really looked at with the plunge, is the fact that it's a pretty cheap community pool, basically, for us, you know, without the tourists, without the income and stuff like that. And if we kind of look at that in that way, so more of the kids can, and it would be a guarantee, you guys, that the city would control basically those prices, they can't be jacked up or lowered as you have different owners come in and go. And if it doesn't work out for these guys, I mean, we still, where are the kids at? And where are they gonna get that sort of stuff like that stuff? So you have to, and also like Shadron's looking at spending more money than this to just enclose their own pool in Shadron. So those are some of the things I thought about.
They decided that was a little too expensive for their taste at this point, I understand.
Shadron?
Yeah.
Okay, more communication from the public?
Just one, if Joe will take the question. Are you asking the city to kind of give you some breathing room so you can put your figures together and see where you stand before they put it before the voters? Is that more or less what you're hoping for?
No, that's not really my purpose here. If there's petitions being circulated, I think they need to be acted on, and the public needs to say something. And that may end our efforts right there. But since I can't say I can make a decision by a date certain, I don't think that's fair of me to ask.
Well, it seems like you're just trying to give it due diligence.
That's what we're trying to do. That's what we're trying
Okay,
to do.
thank you. Any other communications from the public before we continue?
One thing real quick, and maybe this will have, part of it will have to do with decisions being made, election time or before this fall, but hopefully we have, as a city council, have a little patience if SDSU comes out here, because again, city-wise, there wasn't any money budget-wise to hire a consultant to take a look at this. But this group definitely is a well-put-together group. But again, professors coming in May, and then class next fall. So hopefully we can use them as a resource. But just quickly, years ago, the Booster Club had $2,000. They hired an architect to help design an all-weather track up there at the school. 10 years later, finally the school board said, yeah, I guess now would be about the time. And they went ahead and started pushing a little bit, but with the track on the north end up against the Case Auditorium, on the west end against the bleachers, and against the street on the south end, they had to extend themselves over to the parking lot. Well, at that time, the parking lot was kind of sacred, So they said, no, we don't want to use that part of the parking lot. So bid-wise, timing-wise, for track season coming up soon, they decided, well, let's just go ahead and put in a 6-lane track. So they put it in, spent the money, community people helped out a little bit, well, actually quite a bit, volunteer-wise, to get the track put in. Sometime later, short time later, I guess, they decided to go ahead and build the activity building, so they put it in there, and then after that was built, all of a sudden, they started looking at other tracks in the Black Hills area, and they were 8-lane tracks. So they said, yeah, we want to be on the equal basis, so we can host big meets in that. It's too late, because nobody really thought it through. Activity building was there, so we're gonna have to live with a 6-lane track because they didn't do the planning. But hopefully through critical moves and that, with using SDSU, we have the patience. Hopefully they'll give us a hand. They helped out Watertown just recently.
Okay. Thanks, Jerry. Any other communication from the public this evening? Yes.
Have we heard anything from the engineers about the buildings there on my block, that end building that they had to go into to look at? One of the Johnson Brothers buildings?
The SOS building.
The one that was, it's
Yeah,
condemned.
we looked at the SOS building and we're looking to see if we need to get a soils engineer in to see if it's stable underneath the building where it's been excavated inside.
So we still don't know anything yet?
No, because we haven't approved that bill, have we, the council? For the
We
soils
approved it in
engineer?
committee.
We did?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, we've got a soils engineer coming when we can get him here to take a look at that.
Okay, I'm just curious because I'm right there, so thank you.
Okay. Any other communications from the public? Now we'll continue. We've got one resolution. It's to surplus 3 buildings out at the golf course. It's the buildings that we don't need out there anymore, and won't be using. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion or questions? Got a motion and a second to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Abstain.
And personnel, you can see we've got several items on there. You can see them on your agenda. On old business, we've got, Carl had given us a protocol and standards of conduct. He wanted us to take a look at that and maybe adopt that this evening at the meeting. There's, I think, one change that if we would adopt it, we'd have to change on page 4, talks about the number of members that would make a meeting. So if we want to adopt it, I've got a recommended change for that one part there.
I would recommend that we wait until the changes are made and bring it back to the council at a later date.
Okay,
I'll second that.
all right, we'll just wait. We won't actually have a motion in a second, we'll just wait on it, and we'll put it back on the agenda later. The RV dump and water fill station, I'm not sure whose that is.
And we talked about it public works.
Public Works?
There's some people want to really push this along. I still have some concerns about how we're going to gum up traffic out here when the Mueller Center has an event. The plan is to put it just to the east or south here in this parking lot. And we're strapped for parking here already. So I like the idea of having it close to the Chamber of Commerce here to get the motorhomes in here to go see the chamber. But I think we're gonna have an issue with, whenever there's anything going on at the Mueller Center, that people need to dump water, get water or something. We're gonna have an issue.
So you're
There are
still,
some people who want it over there right now. I'm not gonna make a motion.
Well, if we take that island out of there, we're gaining just as much parking as we're taking away.
The thought is to eventually move the soccer field to Butler Park, which would give us a lot more room, but that's not gonna happen overnight.
Okay, so you're gonna keep looking at it, Public Works?
Somebody make a motion if they want, but I'm not sure that's where we want to put it. So,
Well, if we don't start taking action on this, what about that water fill thing? We're getting ready, with that property out there, because with that RV dump site, the water part is gonna go with it. They're gonna shut that water down over here and bring it here. And I think that Scott already has the plans drawn up for that.
yeah, we've got plans and everything for it to go right over here.
Yeah,
Like I say, my concern
parking.
is parking, and when we have a big event here at the Civic Center, somebody pulls in with a big motor home, and, how are they gonna tell? Unless we just make that all no parking right over there.
Well, that's what it's gotta be. It has to be no parking.
And we're strapped for parking down here already, so.
And
We
have
could
to-
tear the fence out, and let them park on the soccer field.
We have to get out on the soccer field and get that going.
We do have to move the water dump station somehow.
Yes, and like we were talking about, if we move the water here next to the dump site, even the people that use water in their motorhomes could use water, and then they also have a big enough place where, like, if you put the water where that island is, even the big, because there's quite a few big trucks coming and dump that, to fill their water tank. I mean, pretty good sized trucks. And so, we put that island and put that water part there, so they can just pull this way, straight on parallel with the street, and they can fill their water tank and get out without being stuck in traffic. So that's, because I thought that's how that was going to work.
I believe they have it where they circle.
Right, well, see, they started that circle thing in there, and then we found out with all the vehicles parked, along that edge in the center, a bigger truck would not be able to turn because of the parking. See, that's what the headache was.
I still have concerns with it being right there, because it's going to come up.
Okay, well,
The Civic Center.
keep looking at it, but maybe there's some other option.
I see we're getting lots by the sewer plant tonight, and that could be a spot just for the fill station.
Well, we talked about that once, but everybody shot that down, as I recall.
That's an awful narrow street down there. You get a big motorhome going down
We're
there.
just talking about the water fill station for now.
But you guys didn't own those lots before, right?
We had some property there.
Yeah, because like Craig says, you can't take a 40-foot motorhome or a 40-foot trailer to go turn around down there because there ain't room.
Well, there will be now if we get these other lots. We'll have a big area.
No, that's, so we're gonna put
It's
the.
gonna be an out-of-the-way area where people aren't gonna see it. I agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This isn't, there's one of those horrible people that drives one of those things. Most of us also haul a vehicle behind it, or in my case, I haul a 23-foot trailer with a car and two motorcycles on it. And trying to turn that in a tight place, you can't do it. You just can't do it.
No, I totally understand that. This is why we're trying to make it big enough for the motorhomes, trucks, or whatever we got to be able to turn around.
Yeah, you need something where you can, like right out here in front, was in front of the Lunar Center, where you just kind of pull off where people park right there, have the dump station right here, and just keep on going, that would work. But, I wouldn't, if you told me the dump station was behind the Mueller Center, I'd go somewhere else. There's no way I'd try to take my.
Hot Springs would.
Why wouldn't come here again?
No, we're open.
That's why we're
for
trying to get
suggestions.
some.
We're open, so if anybody's got a good idea.
Here in front.
Yeah, I was
where
gonna
we're
say parallel
parked
with the
tonight.
street would be
Well,
better.
there's
Yeah.
that
You're gonna
parking
take
lot
all
on
your
the
parking
street.
out there too.
So you use 6 places out there and you have a dump station.
Joe will attest to this. We work in a campground down at Queen Cave. And almost on a daily basis, we have at least one or two, sometimes more, in the busier part of the summer, people asking, do you have a dump station? No, we don't. Where's the nearest one? Well, we were sending them down to
That Big D's
Big
gas
D in
station.
Custer. They have a RV dump, free RV dump station up there.
Yep.
But for anybody who needs to get rid of their waste, that might come down here, and the only place is Custer, guess which way they're gonna go?
And you're sending everybody to Custer instead of back to Hot
That's
Springs.
exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If there's no
Angostura
place to-
does have one, but you'd have to pay to use it, of course.
What's that?
Angostura has one, but you have to have a park sticker to get in.
Just to get in and,
So I guess if everybody's got some ideas, they
Yeah.
can sure come to maybe Public Works or one of their committees.
I don't think you could turn one of those motor homes with big trailer around down by a sewer plant either. They're only 150-foot lots.
Oh, I think.
I don't know.
what do you guys, are you going to sell that land up there with the water station?
Hopefully.
I'd like to.
Oh, you wanna buy it?
How much?
Huh?
How much, yeah, how much?
Let's talk about what we gotta talk about. We're not gonna be out. So bring us some ideas, I guess.
Well, since you already own that, couldn't that be fitted to do the same thing?
We'll have to keep
Water
looking
and
at ideas.
dump station? Or we just looking to get 60
Find a
grand?
spot.
Okay,
I mean, you already own that.
thanks, Dwight.
It's big enough.
New business, first item is the approval of the Willing River 4-H raffle. We talked about it the last meeting. I think the raffle's gonna be the 23rd. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second, Scott, discussion or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Stored vehicle, towed vehicle storage, public safety, you've got something on that?
Yes, we talked about this in our public safety meeting about there's been instances in town where people had their cars towed, and they can't pick them up till the next week, and it ends up costing a bunch of money. Nobody will let them get their car right away, so we came up with a solution that seems how we need to find some place to store cars for the police station anyway, to put up a fence outside the place that we're gonna build for the police department to store cars and start taking the towed vehicles to the city and let the city make that money.
Dr. Murphy talked about.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna do a little bit more research before we actually go through with it, but that's our.
It isn't like we don't have enough room out there to do this.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, that sounds like it might be in order. Okay, equipment for the Miller Center kitchen. Is that yours, Joe?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we was, the last meeting, we was talking about start getting things in here so we could start holding meals and the people would be able to store and keep their food hot. So there, you got a new package here. We're gonna try to start with a refrigerator and a warming oven. And if we go along with this, because these are not, the prices are not outrageous. But there's only one problem with having these two items brought here, is that we need to get the electricity fixed. We need to get the water fixed, and we also need to get the drain system repaired before we start adding more things to our kitchen. But we need these things now, so we need to start getting these other projects started so we can get this other equipment in there.
What's the drain system that has to be upgraded?
The drain system is, we need to start putting clean outs in it, because we're also planning on putting a dishwasher in there to be able to wash the dishes, because the drain is not big enough right now to accommodate.
Aren't you putting in an under-the-counter dishwasher?
Well,
It's a larger capacity, but it's not
Right.
a restaurant dishwasher.
Yeah, that is correct. That's the one we're looking at now.
So it should be able to be accommodated with that
Okay.
4-inch drain.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda. We could have, okay,
You'll
we
figure it
put that in there
anyway.
and it works fine, but I know the electricity is not okay.
Well, I know to upgrade the kitchen, you're gonna have to get in 220 in there somewhere.
Yes, and the way that the 220 or the electricity should be put in that particular room is they should have their own circuit box in that particular room that runs just primarily the kitchen, instead of running it off of the main circuit right there.
Well, you know, when I brought this again at the council meeting a while back, you know, I wasn't given green light to
No,
build
hey.
a commercial kitchen here. I just wanted to get the process
Hey,
going and start planning.
Okay,
but-
this is process. We're starting the process. Here we go. We're starting the process.
Well, I thought maybe like a microwave and a refrigerator, you know, just
Okay,
start
refrigerator.
a little friendly. I mean, I didn't think
Refrigerator.
he was gonna start building
Refrigerator, we have the
a,
microwave.
but why can't, they have used equipment, a lot of these food places. Why can't we look at used?
I've talked to Harley and Chris, notified them about a few of them that have come up. I don't know.
Chris said he's gone to a couple of these auctions where they're selling off the surplus equipment, and they're getting a new price for it when they sell it.
And you guys have been to an auction, you know, sometimes you go to one and it's dirt cheap, and you go to.
No, I'm not talking auction. These companies actually deal specifically in good used equipment. That's their business.
They do.
Not an auction.
But also, those same companies have auctions. That's
I
put up-
realize that.
that's what we put up the last auction that we discussed.
But I guess I didn't realize that we don't have a functioning electrical, a functioning drain, and a functioning.
We don't. Hey.
Are you telling me we don't have a plug-in in there?
You've got
Yes.
plug-ins in there.
These are.
Yeah.
You don't have 220.
For a microwave, you gonna have 220?
You're not gonna
To
get.
have,
There's
to
no
have,
microwave in there.
put in a range, just put in
We can't put a
a
range
standard
until we do an
range from a
install,
house.
right?
You can't.
You can't, because it has to take 220.
Well, I realize you can put a 220 outlet in there.
Well, you can
without-
also put in gas.
But I mean, we need to figure out, I guess, the Ansel system if we're gonna have, I'm not a restaurant, I don't know anything about it, but I've been told you can't have a grill or deep fryer without Ansel system.
Right.
That's correct.
So I mean, we're gonna have to kinda, I'm not trying to make a kitchen, I was trying to make it functional for someone that's holding a family reunion or an event. I mean, something, or wedding or
A
something.
microwave isn't gonna do nothing for 50 people. If that is your idea of upgrading your kitchen, then it's just.
And neither is a
that's all.
standard refrigerator for a house.
Well, I
That
understand you don't want a standard refrigerator, but I mean,
Okay, so this is just what I'm bringing to the table now. We can start by start upgrading the kitchen now, and then purchase this, and I can get Harley to look at, seeing if he could buy some used equipment, but see, I'm
and I,
bringing this.
we gotta start somewhere, I
Yeah,
realize.
okay, we're starting now. Okay,
So can we go back to this CWD and ask them if they have any used equipment?
Yes.
And what they're selling the used equipment for, which would probably be about $300 less than the new.
They currently don't have any used equipment when they were looking at what he wanted here at the present time.
Having been in the restaurant business, I had to take my daughter all the way to North Dakota to find some used restaurant equipment, and it lasted a year and a half.
And for mine, I brought stuff from California, because you couldn't find it.
That's right.
I bought mine in Rapid.
Did it last a year?
They're probably still using it.
Excuse me, Joe, when I was at the Cultural Rec, the only thing I wanted to add about that was, you had talked, Burris, before about having discussions about this before and wanting like a 5-year plan or something. The only thing I would like to see as a community member is that you follow a plan, because if we just start doing things, you know, in 5 years, then that'll be outdated, then we gotta upgrade again. So if we actually
Well,
Get that written plan, and you're right, construction is first, but get it written first so that you guys know what you want, and that in that 5 years, that's your goal. And that in 5 years or in 3 years, when it changes and you want it upgraded, if you could just try to stick to that, maybe it would.
See, if everybody will pay attention to the stuff in their packet, this piece of equipment, both these pieces are 110, they're not 220. One of them is a roll-around piece, which is utilized by caterers. They'll utilize it in the kitchen, and when it comes to serving times, a lot of times they'll move right into the facility and they'll bring serving up. So that does not matter about utilizing 220. The idea of updating the kitchen on its electrical is it's preferred. A few of us know it's preferable to have your breaker for your kitchen area completely separate from the rest of your facility. These two pieces, if we were to purchase, it's nothing that we'd have to upgrade right now. But we still have to be talking about upgrading portions of the kitchen and putting a panel system on its own. Now, do we want to accept the idea of deep fryers? We don't have to have those. No, that is something we need to discuss. But the 5-year plan was actually to purchase a refrigeration unit and something to hold food. That was the first part of the original 5-year plan that me and the past manager of the Mueller Center put together. These two things fit that bill. Now, I'm not on the committee anymore, but these are the same two things that I would have asked for at that time.
Well, my thoughts were we don't even have a simple popcorn maker, a hot dog rotisserie.
You're not gonna
Something you normally see at a.
That's not what you see if you're gonna have a catered meal.
Well, but I'm saying we don't even have a simple popcorn maker. How many events have you attended where you can't get a bag of popcorn?
And that,
I've catered 3 here, but I've never been here to buy popcorn.
years ago, there was all that stuff that was here. I mean, we used to rent it, Southern Hills Arts and Humanities, we used to rent it, and there was refrigerators back here. There were things that you could cook on, because a lot of times we would, part of our fundraisers for the group is we would serve sloppy joes and that sort of thing. We'd eat them all up out there. I don't know whatever happened to everything that was there at one time, but it isn't like this is a new invention of the wheel. It's been there before.
Yep. Let's get back, are you gonna do something with this tonight, or are you just letting the council?
Well, I would like to make a motion that we purchase these 2 items.
Does he have enough in his budget for this, plus what the rest of the year's gonna, it's only February.
I don't know, okay, I already talked to Chris about his budget. Yes, he has enough, but if there's any other special items that needs for the Mueller Center, it'll be kind of shaky.
Or he'll have to wait till next year.
So I have a motion that we buy these 2 pieces of equipment
Yes.
from Joe. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a second. More discussion. And these can be currently utilized
Yes.
right now as it is.
As the kitchen stand right
No
now.
upgrading
No,
anything?
these are 110 systems. The kitchen as it stands right now is a 110 system.
Okay.
Now, I will be the first to say that I've been, go ahead, Kurt.
No, go ahead.
I've been here during Christmas in the Hills, and I've helped the Masons sell chili just like other vendors come in here. Here's the thing, you can come in here with 5 to 6 roasters that every family has, plug them into that kitchen, and they'll blow the kitchen. And you will run extension cords, numerous ones from this building, or this portion of the building. You'll run stuff from the office all the way to the kitchen, because that panel cannot handle anything like that. So if you hook these 2 systems in there and decide to have Christmas in the Hills here, you might as well figure on not pulling any extra energy out of the kitchen. That's why we say we know it has to be up.
So why don't we upgrade the electrical and stuff first and then purchase these later?
I would
Because
say
the
that these, things like this are needed to have events here. If you wanna have a wedding here or whatever.
So, you know-
Any event with a number of people where you're gonna serve food, these things would enhance the ability to do that.
I don't disagree with you at all, but at $5,000 plus electrical, I don't think he has money for that.
If we go for this year, postpone any upgrades as far as the electrical till next year as being the next step.
But put it in the budget.
But put it in the budget, exactly.
Oh, I thought the way you was talking, you wanted electrical first, because these are gonna blow up breakers.
No, these won't blow up those blinkers, but if you have Christmas in the hills, like they've been having it for the last years,
They need to unplug these.
these will either have to be unplugged, you are correct.
Yep.
Or they're gonna have to set it up where the electrical is coming from another portion of the building. I just want that to be out there.
On the other hand, if these things made having an event here more attractive, that would increase the revenue.
Exactly. But
Kinda like
some of
selling
you
hot
know,
dogs and popcorn.
Right.
some of you know, because I've discussed it with the mayor and Harley, I turned away catering a wedding down here for 100 people outside of the community here coming from East River, and they would all spend time here in town. But I turned it down because the kitchen isn't set up. And it's just, it's not worth it. I can't charge them what I think it's worth for the headache, let's put it that way. So I refused it. I turned it down.
Now, if you would have had these two pieces of equipment, would you have been able to pay them?
If I'd had at least this oven, yeah, I would have taken.
Proofer.
And Carl knows why, because he's been in the restaurant business. That to me is more important than the refrigerator, but the refrigerator is second. So there's two ways of looking at it. We can either purchase the equipment, utilize it as it stands now, and do the electrical in a planned budget, or we can purchase this year just the electrical. But it's gonna have to be one or the other. But all in all, it's gonna be a step system, and it's gonna take probably 5 years to get where we want to be. Gotta start somewhere.
We have a motion, a second on the floor, we buy these two pieces of equipment. Any more discussion? Ready to vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? Okay, get that done. We've got initiative petitions with enough signatures on these, is that right, Marlon?
That is correct. Initiated petitions have been filed this past week, asking the governing body of the city of Hot Springs to purchase the Evans Plunge, and I'm paraphrasing the petition here. You're welcome to read it if you wish. Also talks about the legal description of it, so it defines what the actual location is that the vote would be proposed to purchase. And thirdly, getting approval to authorize issuing of bonds under the sales tax, as Joe Lux had mentioned earlier, to not exceed 1.9 million. 179 good signatures were received on the petitions. 126 was the required amount to bring it to a vote of the public.
Okay, so I'd entertain a motion to accept the petitions and set the election date. And what we had in mind was March 26th. That'd be as soon as we could do it.
Why would we want to wait until the regular election?
I would make that motion.
Isn't this going to incur cost to the citizens to set a special election?
Citizens are asking for it.
They are?
Well, we've got the petitions to show that the people want to take this to a vote.
Well, that's fine, but why not just have it our regular election?
Cost of the elections, how much, Harley, did you tell me? You estimated.
Not to exceed $1,000.
Isn't the council usually the one that approves the spending of the money?
Yep, and I do have a motion by Carl.
Second by Burris.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. And second, to accept the petitions and set the election for March 26th.
Yes.
Now, I can go there, Wes, again. Sorry.
I just feel it, I don't know why we wouldn't just do it, have it at the regular election.
Postpone, postpone, postpone. Isn't that what we do with just about everything around here?
Well, you seem to like to just spend and spend and spend and spend.
I'm not spending nothing.
Sure you are.
There is an issue, and that is on the first that the decision has to be made. And therefore, it's too late after.
I got a question, where's the money coming from? It was only $1,000.
The plan right now is there'll be a forum or two to explain what I think Harley showed to the city council, a couple couple of meetings ago to explain what our projections are of the income and the numbers and the counts. And I have not seen the books myself, but there'll be some projections made. And it looks like, from what I've been told, there'll be enough income to keep the thing open year-round until a bit of money back. From admissions. The answer is come from admissions.
No, he's asking, where's the $1,000 gonna come from for the election?
And a point to be made is, should this go through, the paperwork that shows that it's being held until May 1st, it says in there, we can purchase before but not later than October 1st. So we can take, if this would go through the process and the public says, yes, we want to do this, and we get it all settled up, we can take it over this year. We don't have to worry about waiting until October and then being closed for a winter.
Maybe if you have the election at the end of April, you can do the same thing.
But I don't, if you postpone it to the end of April, there's not enough time for your waiting period afterwards to cover the May 1st period. It's March 26th is the date that's good for the election, and then you have your 20-day period after that of waiting. Am I correct?
With the election,
Harley?
we actually have a 20-day waiting period. The election's not referable. Am I right?
That's correct.
Okay, so you won't actually have.
The election, on an initiated election, the election is official at the time of the canvass of the votes. And you have to canvass within 7 days after an election.
Okay. So 7 days.
I have a motion on the floor. More discussion. I have a motion on the floor to accept the petitions and set March 26th for the election date.
I would accept the petitions, but I still have a problem with that election date. I don't like tying those two together. I don't like tying them together on a single vote like that. I think you should accept the petitions and then we work out an election date.
I think the standard is that if you accept the petitions, you set the date. Even on a referral, you accept the petitions and set a date.
I don't think it has to be in one motion. That's just the way it is, and that's the way the motion was made. It was proposed that way.
When's the election in April?
It isn't. Our election in Hot Springs doesn't follow the municipal election time like most communities do. It's been chosen to have it in conjunction with the school, so it's a June election.
More discussion on the motion. I have a motion on the floor. Got a motion second to accept the initiative petitions and set the election date for March 26th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay. Golf cart storage fees. Is that from you, Joe?
I don't know.
That's from me.
Oh, okay.
I had quite a few people call me on this, and I know they haven't gone on this year, but in past years, they have on that old cart shed that's got a gravel floor. They say that for years it just kept climbing and climbing, and they don't do nothing to upgrade the cart shed. They said it's gravel floor, their carts get all dirty and dusty, and they have to take them 3 or 4 times to get in and out of their spot because city equipment's down the middle of it and on one end. And they're tired of paying that kind of money for that, and they don't think it should be that high.
Well, maybe it should be for carts only and not city equipment. And down in Texas, they have dirt floors. They don't have gravel.
Are you proposing a hard surface at that, Craig?
Well, we need to do something. I mean, they pay, what do they pay, $150 a year to keep their carts in there, and they don't do nothing?
It's in out of the weather and they get the electricity, or do they pay for that too?
Yeah, they would pay for that.
So what do they want?
I don't know, they just don't think, they just think it's too high.
I don't think so.
So it was a loss we take on the course in here.
I was gonna say that the cost we're incurring for that golf course, I think it's only fair that
All in all.
they can pay the.
If they don't like it, then they should pull their parts and they won't.
Do you know what the fee is in both?
The one with the other floor is 200 a month, I mean a year?
Aren't they both gravel floors?
No, one's concrete.
Tell them to do over there.
Rotate their stock.
I think, you know, it's a nicer cart shed, and I think everybody that, you know, has the big bucks is over there.
Wait a minute, a cart shed is a cart shed. You're keeping it in and out of the weather for them. That's what they're looking for.
There's $50 difference, $50 or $55 difference between the cart shed that has the gravel floor versus the one that has the concrete floor.
Once our new building's done, that equipment shouldn't be in there anymore.
Most of it still will, I already told that.
Oh, so we were lied to again then.
Okay, I'll tell these people that council says that, tough.
And we'll budget in the new floor next year and raise the rates.
They probably wouldn't mind paying it, you know, they pay it now and don't get nothing.
What do they expect to get?
Okay, let's take a look at that at budget time. See if maybe we can have some dust.
Do they want it all carpeted too and soundproof? So that,
I have a story
Come on,
here.
give me
My
one.
boat cost me $650 a year, and I think that's pretty cheap.
Yeah, but not everybody's got your money, Dee
Hey, I work for the county, remember that.
That's why I said, not everybody's got your money. You got a 3%, you got a 3.5% raise this year, city employees gonna get nothing.
Oh, I did.
Yeah, you did.
I don't work for
You
the
don't
county,
work
I'm
for
used
the
for it.
Oh, you don't know, yeah, you don't get nothing.
Let's keep going, because we've got an executive session pretty quick. So that's just a discussion item, we'll take a look at it at budget time, unless there's something we can do first. But dust is the big issue. Okay. Footbridge, is that yours?
No,
Oh,
that's yours. Oh, yeah, it was mine, but we don't need a bridge, we come up with a better idea.
Oh, so scratch that.
We're gonna use those culverts out there and just cover the culverts up instead of putting bridges.
yeah, but you've already got those culverts sold, so.
They never picked them up.
But are we gonna give the money back?
Why would you?
Have we made
They-
the,
We told them they had 30 days to pick them up, and they didn't do it. I offered to do that too, but somebody chewed my butt out, so I ain't gonna say.
Okay, so that's not on the agenda. Travel request from Scott to go to a meeting in Rapid City on the 26th. What's the travel request? What does he want? For gas or for motel or?
It's a $75 registration fee. It's for March 26th through the 28th in Rapid City, held at the Rushmore Plaza Holiday Inn. Excuse me, it's just the 26th. It's a one-day seminar. The 26th is in Rapid, the 28th is in Sioux Falls, and he'd use the city pickup to go, so that would be that plus the $75 registration fee. It's the non-structural provisions and fundamentals of the 2012 IBC code.
I'll make that motion. Second. Got a motion and a second to approve the travel request. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And we've got over here to accept the deed for 5 lots down by the sewer plant.
this is the Dimick property that we had been working on getting cleaned up. Mr. Olson owns the property, Dimick has left. He stripped the mobile home of anything worth having in it. So he wants to deed the property to the city, which is, I think, about 5 lots down there adjacent to the sewer plant property line. And just give it to the city if we don't charge them to have it cleaned up.
Do I understand that to be, so it'd be 150 by 150?
I don't think it is that down there.
I think it's an angled thing.
Yeah, they're weird lots. But that still don't put it next to our lot, 'cause there's still one lot in between those and ours.
And we are working on that one too, to be, since that trailer is gutted as it is, somebody tore the porch off of it to use it somewhere else and flipped the roof of the porch up onto the top of the mobile home. But that's gotta go.
Do we have any idea what it's gonna cost to clean this stuff up?
About $2,800
How do you arrive at that?
by Scott getting some figures.
Yeah, fire department burn it.
Now we can do that too.
If they
Then
would.
scrap the metal on it.
Be a lot cheaper.
I would like to add that property's been on the news since 1992. Well over $2,000 has been spent in dealing with that property.
So do I have a motion to accept the deed on that property?
I make that motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, any more discussion? Have a motion and a second to accept the property, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? And if we can go really quick, let's do some committee reports, if we have anything. Carl, do you have anything tonight?
At the February 13th meeting, we talked about election items, polling locations, and combining wards. It's recommended that we combine all the wards into one place to vote at, and this would be the place, the Civic Center. The final audit for 2011 was completed, and we'd like to have approval, or we recommend that Kathy be approved to do the 2012 audit. We talked about permanent part-time employees. We also talked about leave accrual while using sick leave. The administrative promotion committee will be looking at making a policy change there as needed. I don't remember what the golf course sales tax issue was about.
Well, that was just updating you. Sales tax for last year compared to the year before, we were up 1% on all three pennies, is what we were citywide. And the golf course was just reporting on the cost of the golf course in 2011. I had reported that it was right at $4,000 for the property tax portion to managing the golf course or funding the golf course. And for 2012, it was $5,082.11 is the actual cost to the taxpayer, the shortage of revenue over expenses in the golf course for 2012.
The other item that, there were a couple of other items that we didn't actually get into, but the other one was DOT highway project, reviewing proposals. And that's what we have.
Great, thanks, Carl. Public Works, Blake, did you have anything tonight?
We talked about the alley work behind Ace Hardware and Fresh Start and First Western Bank, Wells Fargo Bank was so rough. And we're gonna have Tracy do some engineering work for some bridge pans down there. And the talk was to just put them back to base course and tear out the rough and potted asphalt that's in there. City cleanup days, Kurt did a good job describing that in the paper today. Water deposits, amount return policy, Barb and Harley are going to get together and come up with some recommendations for us for the next meeting. And effective February 26th, public work meetings will start at 2 o'clock instead of 3 o'clock. We're getting too many things on the agenda and we're finishing late all the time. We're bumping it up an hour. That's all I got.
Okay, thanks, Blake. Public safety, Craig?
Yes, we talked to Kroll in the meeting before or during our public safety, wasn't it? And we talked about talking to Pete Lean and the feedlot after that, and we've done that since. And we talked about a liaison with the school, and we decided that at budget time to talk about it, there's nothing now. The storage towing, we already talked about that during the meeting. Traffic ordinances, Dave and I went through them about eight hours worth. At the end, the mayor changed everything, so it's up to him now. Bicycle ordinances, we went through and gave it back to Scott, so he's gonna write that up and give it to us to pass next time. Boardwalk, we decided not to do anything, because I guess the city's worried about liability or something, I don't know. No signage will be put up. Golf course building I talked about, and I have to tell the constituents that Carl don't like the idea. I'm just kidding, Carl. The condemnation, we talked about that, about the building next to us, and we're waiting for something from the judge so we can get in there again and let contractors look at, see what it costs to tear down. And we talked about some signs. We need to set an appointment. When's the next council meeting? The 4th?
March, yes.
March?
That's correct.
We need to have a meeting before the 4th of March or that morning, so we can talk about these proposals, because we have to do something by the 4th, because we have 30 days to make a proposal on what we want to do. So it's up to you, Dave. Would you like to meet on the 4th or the Monday before the 4th? That way we have a week afterwards to.
We can meet anytime this week that you want to.
It don't matter to me.
Let's just do it Thursday.
Okay, Thursday morning at 9?
Thursday morning at 9.
Okay.
And you guys will come back with a recommendation
Yep.
with concern to these 3 RFPs?
For the benefit of the press, the feedlot did what they've been doing for the lease of the airport land. The RFP was on the 517 acres around the airport and what value might be there. The feedlot bid what they were bidding on for the agricultural option that we had, and that was $6,000 plus paying for the water to the Angostura Reservoir of about $4,900. Kroll came in with a bid for using 76 acres for the tune of $500,000 to the city, and they would deed the whole mine that they have, which is a total of about 200 acres, back to the city when the mining would be done of the gravel that's their sand. And Pete Lean came in with $1 million offer for the use of the land and to mine the sand around the airport. And it's all contingent upon DENR, because we're dumping our sludge from the sewer plant out there. So we have to abide by their regulations and co-op with anybody that does any of the mining out there, and also FAA because of the airport standards. And there's a whole thick binder of how mining can happen around airport property. And they're both the Kroll and Pete Lean are aware of those proposals, or of that.
Can I say something about your lease?
Absolutely.
Down there, the irrigation ground? That seems awful cheap to me.
Why?
Well, I'm selling 100 acres right now, I've been getting $7,500 a year for it. And we pay the water. That seems awful cheap to me, that you're leasing that out for $6,000.
We haven't done it yet. I mean, somebody was supposed to check.
That's what we was leasing.
I'd suggest that you go down to the ASCS office and ask them what that land is actually voting for. They have a deal they go by on irrigated land. But that seems awful cheap to me.
6,000 does?
Lease the damn buildings for $1 a year.
Somebody was supposed to get that information and bring it back just before, I guess, any of this got ever finalized.
Oh, okay.
I don't know who that man would be, the one with the purple shirt probably.
Well, you know, corn and all the crops are pretty good enough.
Okay.
They should be paying way more than what
I don't even actually know what they actually farm there. I mean,
514 acres.
no, they only farm about maybe.
They don't have that whole works.
Yeah, they have about a couple hundred there, wasn't
Oh,
there?
yeah.
No, I don't
Made of
think there's a
irrigated.
couple hundred.
Now, maybe
That's
I'm
something we
wrong.
need, we gotta find out, we gotta
Yeah,
get some
maybe I'm
answers.
wrong. I just as a suggestion.
Okay,
Thank you, Andy. You're right.
thanks, Craig, and here, that's it? Joe, anything from cultural recreation?
Yeah, I got a few things.
Okay.
Got the Miller Center kind of done. The library is starting to have quite a few classes. Yeah, and the only thing with the library, gonna have to turn this over to public safety. Them drain tiles in the back that's coming off of the downspouts need to be buried underneath that concrete out there and run down the hill. Because when all the kids and everybody start playing around out in the back there, them drain tiles are a safety hazard. And,
There's something that was discussed over a year ago, and nothing has happened yet, so we can take over it as a safety issue.
and one other thing that I got, that Skip from Motel 6 still wants to know, put it on the agenda about opening that street, paving it, because he wants to donate the land, keep it from the street.
Did you see what it cost to pave that street?
That's why I need the extra hour to take a
Harley's supposed to find that out? Oh.
No, he's passing it on the public work.
Oh.
Today.
Oh, why?
And the only thing that I need to know is, the guy will give us from the edge of the street all the way to the river, or if we don't pave the street, he will give us from the curb of that street to the river. And that's about it. Oh, one other thing, I just heard this, is that Harley, is the school starting to pay to use the Mueller Center for their gymnastics?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
We've been sending a monthly bill to the school.
Okay, they're paying approximately $400 a month for their gymnastics. They just started doing this. So I thought that was kind of a good deal. Okay. And our next meeting is on the 5th of March.
Regular schedule.
Right.
Charlie, we will not be going into executive session because the attorney's got this quote. That's why it's being called, so we don't have to do anything by 8:15. So,
We'll be done by 8:20 then, is that what you're saying? Carl alluded to it here, but the Auditor General for the state of South Dakota has notified the city that they've accepted the audit for the city. They'll be publishing the standard notice that the Audit General does whenever a municipality or a county, for that matter, completes their audit. So we'll be seeing some notice in the Star on that here in the near future. I do have audit copies available if anybody wants to review them. You're sure welcome to do that. Evening of Wine and Roses, just informational item, May 4th has been set by the Cultural Development Organization. It's an annual event that they do for their Wine and Roses. Looks like, I don't know if you need RSVP or not, tickets are $30 each on that. And then I wanted to just make note that the municipal election will be held on June 4th, kind of mentioned that a little bit earlier. Polling location and election boards, we need to decide here soon as to whether we're going to move all of the polling places here to the Mueller Center. And I would like to see a combining of, wards 1 and 2 into one polling board and 3 and 4 into a polling board instead of having 4 separate election boards plus a counting board. And I'd like to request that we go with the ballots that are electronically counted that the county uses during their general elections.
Administration and promotion will be making a recommendation at the next.
Just wanted that to get out to the public, so, you know, if there's a concern about the polling places being at the Evans and Brookside, I have no problem with the city doing absentee voting for those that can't get out to do voting, and, you know, we'll, you know, they're opening the laws, you know, nationally to make it a lot easier for absentee voting and taking away some of the requirements that used to be there. You had to be sick, and you had to be out of town, and you had to show proof of all that. Now it's just pretty well open that you can absentee vote whenever the ballots are ready to start.
We should always promote that. Everybody should have a vote.
We used to do that for years.
Is that early?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I've got two items. First of all, I went to promote a library district bill in here and it failed. But I think next year, if we take that again from what I've talked to some of the legislators afterwards, I think that we have a good chance of doing it next year. We have to do it a little bit differently than we did this year, but anyway, we will not have library districts this year. It was put off with a 4-3 vote to the 41st day. And then the other thing is, on the traffic ordinance, what I had said a couple, 3 months ago is that any ordinances we have in the future, I'd like to give a little bit of an update so the council know what's coming in, so they aren't surprised, and also the public knows what's coming. And in this traffic ordinance, it was an old ordinance, most of this is just a cleanup of what's in there. For example, we've gotten rid of the freight curb loading zone and pedestrian curb loading zone. We already had a curb loading zone, so we're just cleaning it up. We don't need all three of those different kinds of loading zones. We have taken out the verbiage that talks about a railroad. We don't have railroads in town, so we don't need a railroad and any railroad parts in our ordinance. We've taken out a lot of the language that talks about traffic signals, like if the light is green, you can go, and if it's red, you have to stop. We don't think that that's all important to have in the city ordinance that's covered by state law. So to clean it up and make it shorter and easier, we've gotten rid of some of that.
They needed them for the horse and buggy, you know.
Yep.
Some of that stuff hadn't been touched since the 40s and 50s.
We have changed a little bit on the authority to erect signs, traffic signs, traffic control. In the past, we didn't have a way to organize or to legislate any parking. So we're talking about parking and sign locations for traffic control, public safety. According to what we are presenting here, the police department, through a resolution of the council, can establish these zones for parking and no parking, and it doesn't have to be a part of the ordinance itself, because we're allowing them by ordinance to set certain zones. We've taken out some of the other verbiage that pretty much follows, like there's one that says vehicles have to stop at stop signs. We don't think that's necessary in our city ordinances. We can do that by state code. The committee wants to have some information in there, verbiage about roller skates, skateboards, similar devices that are used in the roadway or byway, any place on the streets. They can't be used without a helmet or other safety headwear. We're interested in the safety of the kids that are out in the streets.
That is for people under the age of 18.
It doesn't say 18, should it?
Yeah, it should. It should, because it's, can't, we're implementing safety for the kids under the age of 18.
Okay, we'll add something in there about under the age of 18.
Well, we did.
It is in the bicycle ordinance that we can follow, but somehow or another, I think we might overlook that on them.
Okay, we'll make sure that gets in there before we have it back for first reading.
So, there's gonna be a fine ordinance for the kids if they don't ride their bikes with a helmet.
Okay.
Could be.
More useless ordinances.
One one of the big differences between what the committee had proposed and what I proposed is a snow removal and vehicle towing section. I'm saying that, or what I was proposing that's in here, is that we will have areas for snow removal piling. We'll have areas that ice up a lot in the winter with moving of snow. And if vehicles are parked in either a traffic safety area or if it's an icing problem, we can ticket and tow those cars if we'd like to. What the committee would rather have, and it's gonna be up to the committee and then the council, is they would rather have emergency snow routes where as soon as there's 3 inches of snow or more, it's an automatic that you can't park on one or the other side of the street depending on the date. And they've got quite a few streets in town where this would be effective, so that's something that is gonna have to be decided by the committee and the council. That's one difference, a big difference between what the committee would like and what I.
If I remember correctly, we limited it down to, when we met with you, we made a map, we limited it down to 5 streets.
Well, the last map I had more than that on it, so I knew we talked about that. So it should be like about 4 streets.
He was with us at 45 streets. You should have the map because we asked Scott for it.
Yeah, but I thought you meant after that go back to, so it should be the 4 to 5 streets.
Yeah, we.
Okay. I'll also get that fixed. The other thing that it says in here is that if people have not appeared to pay the tickets, or if there's some sort of a notice to appear that they haven't followed because of any of these traffic tickets, basically, it used to say that we shall arrest them, and we changed that to say we may. We don't want to have something that says we shall. So there's quite a few changes in here. There's a lot more I didn't talk about that are cleanup time changes. A couple more we still got to make, but I'll have a final copy of this in another couple of days for the Public Safety Committee for final. That's all that I have.
Motion to go into executive session.
We don't have to go in, attorneys can't make it.
Who can't?
No. Attorneys.
Oh, good. Motion to adjourn.
Got a motion and a second to adjourn. Or,